there is still some racing to come from the seniors X30s. They know that as well. They've obviously got some more racing ahead of them, and they've had to be quite disciplinarian over the course of the weekend. They've had to be very, very calm and collected about everything. So they will, of course, have to be quite strict about how they go through the rest of the weekend. So on that respect. But now we get ourselves ready for the next of the Senior X30 races. Qualifying Heat BE was an absolute classic and won in fantastic style by Dean McDonald in the end for his second win of the day. But now we move on to X30 Senior Qualifying Heat AD, and that is the groups A and D going together. So Joe Turney and Arnold Malizia will run on the front row of the starting grid. And with Joe Turney having picked up a couple of victories already, and Dean McDonald doing likewise, it could be a very interesting day at the office coming to a close for these guys. They have still got 2 sets of races a little bit later in the day, but this is the last of the group races for Group A. So for the likes of Joe Turney, Xavier Hansheim, Ruben Moya, Carlos Saval, Alejandro Lajasloop, etc., this is their last race of the day, and for them it's going to need to be a very important one. They're going to need to work very hard to make sure it all works out. So they will do a good job. They will work hard, of course. They're going to have to work very intensely over the course of the day, what is left of it. But the Group D drivers at least have the knowledge that they have got one more of the heats to come. But this will be the last of the races of the day for the Senior Group A, and they have had 3 so far. This will be their 3rd so far, I should say. Joe Turney having won both of his heats. This is obviously an opportunity for him to go and do it again here. But there can only be one winner, and we're seeing the likes of Dean McDonald and Joe Turney win everything they have started. So they've obviously got to break the deadlock somewhere. But for Joe Turney, this is a good opportunity to really battle away for a good victory. So we'll see if Joe Turney can take another victory over the course of proceedings. And this is how we will sort out who is going to have a long weekend and who is going to have a short one. Don't tell me we're getting more rain around the circuit again. We're getting more drops of water on the commentary box window. That's a little bit ominous going into this race. Again, I have to stress it isn't heavy, but they are definitely drops of water making their way onto my commentary box window again. So that could be a slight headache. That could be a slight problem. So we'll have to see what we can do about that, and hopefully we can exacerbate the threat of rain. But it will be a bit of a tricky one. We know that for a fact. So the drivers are getting themselves ready to go as we prepare for the last few races of the day. We've got about 2 hours or so left of the race action here today. And the race is about to get underway for the X30 Senior Qualifying Heat A and D. So let's run through the grid in a bit more detail then. Joe Turney on the front row of the grid, along with Arnold Malizia on the front row. Then Xavier Hansheim alongside Sam McDonnell on the second row of the grid. Ruben Moya and Jordan Brown-Nutley on the third row of the grid, with Carlos Saval and Patrick Rundqvist on the fourth row of the starting grid. Alejandro Lajasloop is there on row 5, along with Nicolas Bayart on the fifth row alongside him. Then it is Philippe Vava and Jacob Ang, Morgan Porter and Jason Lockwood, Vincent Rouard and Sebastien Degrand, Gus Lawrence and Luis Beliso. Then we have Sylvester Alexeyevas and Matilda Olsen, Tony Harainen and Matthew Gilliland. Then we have Reese Ushijima and Antoine Percival, Alejandro Martinez and Ben Wildrich, Toisko Ovasco and Riku Salmonotio for an all-Finnish row 14. Tyler Reid and Kira Scott making an all-British row 15. Thomas Ward, Robin Knutson, Tsihim Zhang, Jack Tomalin and Teddy Williams round out the field. So again, it should be a very exciting X30 Senior race, this one. It will be, let me do the math, it will be the 8th race for the X30 Seniors over the course of the day. 10 more laps on the lap times, please, and it will be an interesting one for all of the drivers in this particular battle. We've got all sorts of races still to come. So the drivers will prepare in earnest for the serious business end of the day. Now, I'm just trying to figure out if both of these classes do have to race again. I think they do, actually, in the A and D. Well, the A, this will be their last race of the day. My apologies, as I've already mentioned. And the D group, this is their penultimate race of the day. So they will have another one after this one. But the drivers are getting themselves ready for the off. And it should be a really close battle from these two on the front of the grid. Joe Turney versus Arnaud Milizia. Great Britain and France represented on the front row of the grid, with the Belgian Xavier Hansheim in third position, desperate for this one to be the race that really counts for him. He's had so many opportunities and they all seem to have been taken away from him at the last minute. And surely this time, Xavier Hansheim has an opportunity to come through and take a victory, because he's not really had the best of fortunes so far, has the Belgian. But maybe this time it'll be the race that gives him the chance to really show what he can do. It's time to prove it. So Xavier Hansheim doing the best he can, in the hope that this time he's got himself a much better kart underneath him. The guys at the team will obviously have done their homework and given him the tools to do the job. For the TYS racing team, a very, very strong operation, TYS. And they know how to get the job done for so many drivers. So I'm sure that Xavier Hansheim will be back to his best this time. And yes, there are spots of rain on my commentary box window. But hopefully there won't be too many more added to it. Although there is definitely rain in the air. Whether it's going to break big time this time or not, we will find out. But I'm a little bit pensive about whether it's going to stay dry throughout the entirety of. I'm not sure it will now, because I think we might have a little bit more rain to come. It's a bit heavier than it was earlier. I say a bit, we're talking a few more spots than fell last time. That's the only way to gauge what I'm talking about, really. So, a few more good messages. GF369, Tom Ward, let's do this. Nothing to lose, absolutely, at this point. For a lot of the drivers, it really is. Do the very best you can and see what happens. Particularly those who are about to have their last race. And I think, unfortunately, Tom Ward, unless something majestically spectacular happens, I think GF369 watching at home may have a point. But he's absolutely right. There is nothing to lose, so let's get the job done. And Tom Ward will be fighting his best to do so from where he is starting on the grid. That is the 16th row, 31st on the grid. Let's fight their way up from that far down to be in the mid-pack. So let's see what happens. Now, one of them is going to have to start the race from the pits, and that is Carlos Saval. So Carlos Saval will be starting the race from the pit lane. That is an absolute disaster. Keep his revs up. Knows that this race is now going to be as a result of what happens on the first, and we'll see what happens to the driving his way through. He will look for an opportunity and he will get himself started as soon as he possibly can. And now the field will get underway. Ready, and we're racing, and the race gets underway. It's a cracking start from Joe Turney, who has already blistered his way forward. Xavier Hansheim slots himself into second position, no problem at all. Arnaud Milizia, I think, is now down in, let me try and figure it out, about fourth or fifth, I think. Let's see how they all jostle through. Oh, 2 or 3 carts up in the air, and somehow all of them have got through reasonably okay. So the battle's still going very strong indeed. There's a couple of carts that have come off there on the exit of turn 5, and that's 2 carts that Carlos Saval has already got past. The rain has ceased again already, but out in front it is all going okay for our race leader, Joe Turney. So Joe Turney leads the way. Joe Turney out in front, going for victory once more. In front of the Belgian, Xavier Hansheim, I think it is, who is in second position. It looks like Ruben Moya is not far away from the position at the moment. They're in 4th place. Behind is, the 3rd place man is Sam McDonnell. Ruben Moya, Arnaud Milizia, Philip Vava, Jordan Brown-Nutley, Morgan Porter, Alejandro Lausloop, Patrick Van Kist, Nicolas Bayard, and Vincent Rouard. So some good battles to come then in this one, but it's Joe Turney who leads the way. Xavier Hansheim is closer to him than he'd like to be, though. He'd like him to be. Let's continue the battle as they go around the circuit. Now, who's that's gone off at the first corner? We've got two carts in the wars. One of them is the 252. Now, that is... who's the 252 cart? That is going to be Matthew Gilliland, and somebody has gone off with him. Now, I'm not entirely sure who that is up at turn one, but the yellow flags will be out regardless as the drivers come through at the end of this lap. There we go, yellow flags. So they've got to be careful. Now, I wonder, are we going to be under... Yes, they're going to slow down at the first corner, partially because we've got some water on the circuit, but also because we've got somebody off at the first corner, and I can tell you that it is Ben Wooldridge. So Ben Wooldridge has gone off there at turn one. Thomas Gilliland went with him, but I'm afraid it is Ben Wooldridge who has not continued. And I do believe that the medical team is standing by, because obviously when you go off at turn one and it's under the braking zone, it can be quite a nasty knock. We did have Zach Meakin having a little bump earlier on, and we've got somebody pulling out of the queue and retiring from the race. So we've got someone out of the race coming into the pits. Now, who is that's coming in to retire? Just trying to see who that is that's come down the pit lane with difficulties. So we've got someone in trouble. Couldn't quite see who that was coming through, but we are under yellows as Ben Wooldridge is being recovered, and the medical team will make sure that he is okay. Well, the accident was strong enough at the first corner that they needed to bring the race under yellow conditions. So the race has been slowed to a yellow flag condition race, and it was the 251 who came into the pits with problems, and that is Jason Lockwood. Now, Jason Lockwood came into the pits. This is a difficult one because Jason Lockwood actually left the circuit after turn 7 to cut through and make his way back into the pits and then rejoin. So I don't know, is Jason Lockwood going to be allowed to keep his position, or will they have judged that he hasn't completed a full lap? I'm not sure on that one. That one will need to be investigated. So we'll find out. But Jason Lockwood came into the pits with difficulties with the cart and has now joined in relatively at the back of the queue. I think there's only 3 carts behind him in the queue, so this is going to be an interesting restart. I can tell you that Wooldridge's cart has now been moved from its position, so I think we're going to go green at the end of this lap. And there's only one retirement from the race, therefore. That is Ben Wooldridge. So this race is going to restart at the end of lap 4. So the race is going to get restarted once again very shortly indeed. And it is going to be Joe Turney, Joe Turney in front of Sam McDonnell as the race will resume. Oh, it looks like we're going around for one more lap, actually. And I think it's because there needs to be some work to the barriers at turn 1. So we'll do that and make sure that all is well. As back into the pits comes another competitor. Who's that's come into the pits? We'll double check. That is Thomas Ward. Bad luck again for Tom Ward. Oh, this is a disastrous weekend for Tom. And he's come into the pits with more mechanical difficulties. Now, they're still under yellows, so can he get back out onto the race circuit again in good time? They have checked the 369. And so, yes, Tom Ward gets back out onto the circuit once again. So he will join at the back of the grid. But what a disappointment again for Tom Ward. Now, he's going to have to basically sprint around the circuit to join the back of the queue because they're already going down towards the back straight. They haven't quite reached it yet. And so look at Tom. I'm just watching Tom Ward go around the circuit. He's absolutely flat on the throttle trying to catch up to the back of the queue. He should get there just about on the tail of Jason Lockwood, who has now moved to the very back of the queue. I think that's the compromise he has made from skipping part of the circuit. He just goes to the very back of the queue, and that's fair enough. But the race is going to restart, and it's all going to be judged based on what Joe Turney will do. He knows that the race is going. He's gone on the accelerator. Here we go. And it's go, 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 go. Half the race done and half to go. Joe Turney leads from Sam McDonald, Xavier Hansheim, Ruben Moyer from Malizia, Vava, Brown-Nutley, Porter, Nahusloop, Rundqvist, Bayard and Rouard. So the race has got underway, and it's a good start for Joe Turney out in front. All going well at the moment. In second position, Sam McDonnell. Third is Xavier Hansheim in front of Ruben Moya. And fifth place, Arnold Milizia. So once again, proof that if you start on the even side of the circuit, you're in real difficulties. Now, Ward is not far from the back of the queue, but he hasn't quite caught them up. So he's going to be a good 5 or 6 seconds off the back of Jason Lockwood. So I'm afraid it looks as though Tom Ward's day is about to come to an end, which is a real shame. He's worked very hard. Joe Turney, however, leading the way, fastest in the second sector. He's got purple in the second sector, trying to drop Sam McDonnell and get away. Xavier Hansheim in third position. Across the line they go. Turney, McDonnell, Hansheim, Ruben Moya, and now the battle coming in behind. And up the inside for fourth position, that is Arnold Milizia. Arnold Milizia makes the move on the inside and gets up into fourth position. And so too does Philip Vava. So Philip Vava has got past Ruben Moya as well. So that demotes Ruben Moya down into P6, unfortunately. Seventh place at the moment is Jordan Brown-Nutley, who has not really had the pace in this heat that we have seen from him over the course of the rest of the meeting. And I think that yellow flag section really compromised him as well, actually. So Jordan Brown-Nutley has not got a lot of laps to try and get himself back into a good position. 3.5 to be precise. So he's going to have to work very hard indeed. A lot of drivers just putting in the best performance they possibly can to try and save their weekend. But as the rain has stopped again and the sun is trying to clear the clouds, we have got 3 laps to go. And it's Joe Turney who leads. McDonnell second. Xavier Hansheim is there in third position. Xavier Hansheim trying to move through. So can Xavier Hansheim get himself up into second place? He's going to have to work very hard at it indeed. Philip Vava, meanwhile, has got into fourth position ahead of Arnold Milizia and Ruben Moya. And if those three keep battling, there's a chance for Jordan Brown-Nutley to get into the top 6. Leading the battle behind him as he is from Morgan Porter, Alejandro Lahazloop, Gus Lawrence, and Sylvester Alexeyevas. So Joe Turney is still trying to get away from Sam McDonnell, and he's doing so. Xavier Hansheim is not quite close enough yet to Sam McDonnell to challenge for position, but he's going to need to have a really good next lap, which is the penultimate lap. Joe Turney, again, he just is able to check out and leave the rest of the field standing. He's just got good pace around here. So Joe Turney makes good work of it. Xavier Hansheim now goes for the move on the inside into second position, and he's there. So Xavier Hansheim gets into second place. Now, this is really important for the Belgian. He needs to keep this going, and he needs a strong result in the third heat for his day. I think it's the third heat for his day. It might be the fourth, actually. But he really needs a strong result. Back into fourth place has come Arnold Milizia. Philip Vava in fifth. Ruben Moya in sixth. Jordan Brown-Nutley in seventh place, ahead of Morgan Porter in eighth. So the battle still needs to keep going for these guys towards the front end, but on the lower end of the top 10, we still need a lot of drivers to keep pushing forward. If you're in the top 13, you're not doing too badly, and certainly looking good to keep things running a little bit longer. But look at the lead that Joe Turney has got out in front. That is absolutely astonishing. So let's see how things are currently going. Teddy Williams desperately trying to break himself into the top 15 or so, as supported by the Barrow family. Here we go. How on earth is Joe Turney doing this? As John Cole says, he is lit today. Absolutely. Like a torch paper. He is just absolutely flying around the circuit. Out in front, Xavier Hansheim in second place, ahead of Sam McDonnell. Fourth place could spice up on the last lap here. Milizia, Vava and Moya still battling away, with Jordan Brown-Nutley giving chase behind them. Arnold Milizia defending big style. Ruben Moya gets alongside Philip Vava. Vava now down the inside of Milizia and gets through, no problem. McDonnell, meanwhile, has done the same thing to Xavier Hansheim, and that has spiced things up. Jordan Brown-Nutley getting in there to try and get into the top 6. Morgan Porter not far away either. But it's Joe Turney out in front. Joe Turney comes through to take the checkered flag. Joe Turney does it. Arnold Milizia battles through. There's a little bit of a spin and contact in the final turn. Xavier Hansheim across the line with McDonnell. And that was incredibly tight. Lots of drivers in the wars on the final couple of corners there at the chicane. And Sam McDonnell down to second position. Now, interestingly, I'm not sure Xavier Hansheim came across the timing beacon, because he went off the road and is classified as not having come through. There he is now. So his transponder may have been knocked there, but he's come through in third place. So Xavier Hansheim, well, what are they going to judge that? Xavier Hansheim and Sam McDonnell, how are they going to judge what happened there with McDonnell and Hansheim across the line? Because Hansheim was on the right side of McDonnell. McDonnell effectively didn't give him enough space to go through as well. And then we had that melee at the final turn. Arno Milizia coming through in fourth, ahead of Ruben Moya, Philip Vava, Alejandro Laszloop, Gus Lawrence, Sylvester Alexievas, and Morgan Porter. Jordan Brown-Nutley down to 11th in all of that. Patrick Rundqvist, Nicolas Bayat, Matilda Olsen, and Jacob Ang are the next ones through. Then Sebastian Degrand, Luis Beloso. Teddy Williams comes through in 18th in the end. Good recovery from him. Then we have Vincent Rouart. And Carlos Saval made it up as far as 20th. Fair play to him as well. But Teddy Williams right from the back of the grid. You cannot underestimate that man. 35th on the grid, and he fought his way back to 8th.